Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to be talking about Anzrag's Rampage. For 3 colors and 2 red, it's a sorcery that says destroy all artifacts you don't control, then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put into graveyards from the battlefield this turn. You may put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Now this is a really interesting card for a couple of different reasons, because it's doing 2 very distinct things that are both quite powerful. For starters, this is just an overloaded Vandal Blast without the flexibility. That's already pretty good, because Vandal Blast is actually a great card in Commander. That being said, of course, the flexibility is part of the reason it's so good, but 90% of the time you're going to be casting Vandal Blast for the 5 mana rather than for the 1 mana mode. So in that sense, this is already pretty good. It has 1 more red pip in its mana, but that really doesn't make that much of a difference if your mana base is good enough. However, this has significant upside over an overloaded Vandal Blast in that you then get to just look at the top cards of your library, and there's probably going to be a good 5-6 artifacts in play, no doubt. And then you're going to get to put a creature straight onto the battlefield from amongst those cards. That's incredible. You get to just cheat on mana cost, so you could put something really huge into play. It is going to come back at the end of your turn, which is mirroring Ilhag, the Raised Balls kind of effect. But if you've got any sort of ETB or attack trigger, that's already pretty good. You've got a bunch of value out of it, and then it gets to go back to your hand so you can get the ETB again. That honestly seems quite good. So the question is going to be, how many artifacts do you need to have hitting the graveyard before you could reliably use that second ability? And before we actually think about that, it's worth mentioning that you don't need that second ability. As we've said, this is already good without that, so getting it is just gravy. But if you want to consistently hit, you probably want to make sure that you're getting rid of about 5 or 6 artifacts with this, because if you're in a creature heavy deck, that should basically guarantee that you hit something. It might not necessarily be what you want to hit, but hitting anything at all off of this is pretty good. But there is something else that we haven't mentioned yet, and that is that this counts any artifact that was put in the graveyard from the battlefield this turn. That includes your own artifacts. So if you're in any sort of sacrifice themed deck where you're sacrificing artifacts, or if there were some artifacts in Commander that wanted to sacrifice themselves, I can't think of any right now. Oh yeah, that's right, treasures. If you're playing this in a deck with treasures, or clues, or food, or anything else of that nature, this suddenly becomes a lot better. Treasures are the best, obviously, because you can use them to cast this. So if you say sack 3 treasures and then pay 2 extra mana for this, you're going to get to look at an additional 3 cards apart from whatever you were already destroying from your opponents. That actually makes this a lot stronger in any deck that plays treasures. But again, it doesn't only have to be treasures. It could be something like Megatron, which would definitely like this card, because you're going to be sacrificing your own artifacts in that deck quite a bit. It could be good in Toggle, which wants to be making rocks, which then you're going to sacrifice to throw at your opponents. Any deck that has artifacts that can be sacrificed for free or for very little is interested in this kind of effect. But even so, again, just to reiterate, I think this goes in basically every red deck if you wanted to. You should be running at least a couple of effects that deal with artifacts en masse, and a lot of the time this is just going to be an upgrade of a Vandal Blast, which, as we've mentioned, is a very playable card on its own. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I think it's going to see a bunch of play, and definitely test it out in your decks because it's probably going to be very strong. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.